Hey everyone, today we're going to cover if-then statements. So if you download the file in the chat, that's where you're going to get it. If you're not familiar, this is the most common one we're going to cover. Equals if, logical tests, value of true, value of false, and we're going to cover a lot of different things. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And if you have any questions, raise your hand, put it in the chat, all good. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is we see this column here for state. Now, we've used this file a lot. This is the city of Austin, Texas, and their spend data cleansed. They have it online if you want to get a more up-to-date version of it. But we want to do a state field. And basically we have Texas and then everything else. I don't want to see everything else. So what we're going to do is we're going to see equals if, parentheses, R2 equal to double quote TX, close quote, then TX, and then we're going to close the parentheses, okay? So then we're going to click that formula we just created, double click down on that black cross. You see all the way down, you get a bunch of Texases and then a bunch of falses. Now, I'm going to run a pivot table on this, and so eventually, so I don't want to see false. I want it to just say other, right? So what we're going to do is in our formula, we're going to erase that closed parentheses. So if R2 equals TX, and just real quick, if I do TX like this, it's going to work, and if I do TX like that, it's also going to work. So the case sensitivity is not there from an equals perspective. But what I want to do is I want to say value if false. If it's not Texas, if it doesn't meet that TX command, then do a double quote, and then I want other, okay? And then we're going to do that. We're going to hover over that cell again, bottom right, black cross, double click that down, and now you have Texas and other, okay? So that's really good, that's helpful. I want to do region next, and this is where we start getting into, we're gonna cover or statements. So this is going to get a little complicated, okay? So we're going to cover nested if statements, okay? So equals if, and nested means that you have multiple in a row, okay? So if R2 equals TX, then TX, right? So if the state is equal to double quote TX, then my value to return is TX. Otherwise, I want to do a second if statement. If that equals, I see GA here, which is for Georgia, then Southeast. So that's just true. So then the third false is if this equals, I see Tennessee as well. We're also going to do the Southeast. And then I see one last one for NC, equals NC, then Southeast. Okay. Now, if you're from any one of those states, you might argue Tennessee is not really the Southeast, Georgia's not, North Carolina is not really the Southeast. I get that. That's fine. Now, you can press enter here. If you want, you can close the parentheses on all of these. Total, we need 4, looks like. We'll click enter, and then we hover over the black cross, double click down, and then we get a bunch of Southeast here as well. So that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. We want everything that has some of those other states to say false. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a filter here. I want to remove the filter I had, add a filter, and then I'm going to filter to just the Southeast, and you can see all of the states here, right? GANCTN. So that's awesome. This is a nested if statement. If you can master this, you are an Excel master. That you can do every complicated formula there is. So It's called nesting if statements, and it's just one if statement after another, after another, after another. Now, we're going to add we're going to do region 2, and we're going to do something slightly different on this one, because you don't need to nest every single thing. Okay, we want to do an or. So the or and and statement. Let me just do a simple one. So equals if, and then in the logical test, what we're trying to do is we're trying to return a true or false statement. Okay, so we're going to type the word or here, and we're going to do another open parentheses. Now this is another nested formula. This is complicated. So this is or is logical 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or unlimited, and so you're going to check if any one of these statements is true. Okay, so that equals tx, that equals nc, close parentheses, and we're just going to do true and false here. Okay, and then you're going to enter that, and if you just drag down a little bit, you can see that row 4, which is North Carolina, is true. So either one of those statements is true, then I return a true. Otherwise, I return a false. Okay, so we're going to change this a little bit. We're going to erase what we just have. Any questions so far? Are we okay? Hopefully this is. Hopefully you guys are following along pretty well. And I'll assume silence is okay. Cool. Okay, so we're going to change this. We're going to do an if statement, okay? And we're going to do a combination of if and or and nested, okay? And we're going to create multiple regions, okay? So equals if that equals Texas, then Texas, okay? Otherwise, if or that equals GA, that equals NC, that equals AL for Alabama, comma, that equals TN for Tennessee, that equals Florida, FL for Florida, Louisiana. Oh, sorry, I keep getting that error because I keep forgetting to put the comma at the end of it. This equals Louisiana. All right, so if it's any one of those, then Southeast, okay? Otherwise, we're going to do another if statement. We're going to do a third one, and if or that R2 equals Arizona, this equals New Mexico, this equals Nevada, sorry, this equals Oklahoma, this equals, yeah, that's probably pretty good. Then Southwest, right? So that's good. We're going to do one more. We're going to do if this equals Washington, this equals Oregon, or this equals California. Oh, I forgot one thing. I forgot to put the or statement before I started doing all these things. So I'm going to put the or statement here, and you can see if R2 equals Washington, R2 equals Oregon, R2 equals California, close, comma, then West Coast, right? And then I'm going to put another here, and it's just going to be false is other, okay? And then I'm going to close those parentheses. You can now see my regions. Boom. And so now if we filter, you can see other Southeast, Southwest, Texas, and West Coast. You can see all these different ones that we've created, right? So this is really, really good. If you want to continue to do different things, you can change your other statement here. So you can create one for the Midwest or the Northeast, right? You got Kentucky and Ohio, and you got Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Idaho is like a good, Mountain West, right? Like that's kind of how we delineate. I'm not as familiar with the Northeast United States, but that's what you could do, right? You could keep creating more and more statements, right? If or that equals ny close parentheses. Now, that's the other thing is you don't have to put multiple. You can just put one. So, and then you can come back later and add more conditions, right? So northeast, otherwise other, right? Now, just click yes. This is just adding close parentheses to the side. So now when I add that down, now New York is, double click that. Now New York is a northeast value that we have listed here. Now, the first thing I see when I look at this is how jumbled up this is and how complicated this is to look at, okay? So what I do to kind of make sense of this is I take my formula bar and I drag it down. Now, if you hover over, you'll see two black arrows up and down with a black line in between, okay? And that, if you just click that and drag, it allows you to resize your formula bar, okay? So what I'm gonna do here, so I'm gonna increase a little bit more. Every time I see an if, right before that, I'm going to click, I'm gonna create a new line. Now, I'm on a Mac, it's option and return, so option enter. On a PC, I'm guessing it's control, could be alt, could be shift enter as well. But on a Mac, it's option and then enter. So every time I see the if statement, I'm going to press enter and create this new line here, okay? So now, when I click enter, now this looks a lot easier to digest, right? And every time I can click into a formula, it'll have those lines. And this is a lot easier for me to understand what's happening in this entire formula, okay? And so I could very easily from here say, hey, I want to do one more, and I can do a new line in between, and I can just copy what is above. So we talked about Colorado, and we can do Mountain West, right? And just add a comma, add another parentheses at the end, and you can click enter, and now when you drag that down, you can see that we have Mountain West here. So you can continue to update and tweak all of these different things. By having a larger formula bar, it's a lot easier to digest what your formula is doing. So I do this a lot when I'm working with nested statements, and there you go. So okay, questions up to this point. This is complex stuff. So this is really good. If you can do this, I'm confident you can do anything in Excel or anything in programming, really. If then statements are like the core foundation of programming in general. So okay, so that's good. So no questions. I think we're all set. We're gonna keep going, okay, and we're gonna just name this column target, okay? So I want to find all of the orders that are high spend and in Texas, okay? Because Texas is relevant to me. I care about Texas, right? Actually, I'm going to flip that. I care about Texas. I want any high dollar transactions that are not in Texas, okay? That are not equal to Texas, okay? That's what I want, because I want to get rid of those suppliers, right? I want to get rid of those. I want to focus on Texas suppliers. So I want to look for any expensive items that are not purchased inside Texas, okay? So we're going to do another equal sign, if, okay? And in this case, we're going to use if and, okay? So with the or, what it does is to check to see if any of those statements are true, then it returns a true. This one, it checks to see if all of those statements are true, then return a true. Okay, so if and we're going to do a comma or open parentheses. Okay, so the logical one, logical two, all of these things have to be true in order to return a true statement. So first thing we're going to do is we want y2 not equal to Texas. Okay, so that's what I want to do. Now you could also do R2. If I did that, I would do R2 not equal to TX. Okay, totally possible. That's fine. Either one is okay, because that's what I'm trying to get the logic of not Texas. Okay, and then a comma. So the second logical statement is this total amount column. So H2 greater than $1,000. Okay, so then I'm going to close the parentheses. If both of those are true, then target, otherwise not target. Right? And you're going to enter, and you can see this is not target because it's not Texas. Okay, or it is Texas. So I'm going to hover over that for a little while, just so you guys can see it a little bit better. If and R2 is not equal to Texas, H2 is greater than 1,000, then target. Okay, now if we did this correctly, this one should show up, because this one is $276,000 and it's not Texas, right? So if I drag this down just a little bit, make sure that the formula works, it does. This is exactly what we want. It's not Texas and it's over $1,000. So now I'm going to click that all the way down, and you can see this one, which is not Texas, but it's for $107 and it's for blue jeans. So that is okay if we bought blue jeans from someone else. Now we'll go into that. No, that's a conversation for another day, but we got a couple targets and a couple not targets. So now I'm going to reapply my filter. Now, if you don't know this shortcut, Control-Shift-L will toggle on and off your filters. Okay, I love that shortcut, Control-Shift-L. It's a great way to apply filters. I'm also just going to move my formula bar back up here. So Control-Shift-L filter, I'm going to do target. Wow, that is a lot of targets. And if I add all that up, that is a lot of line items. So it's a little overwhelming. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear my filter, and I'm going to change the target to 10,000. Okay, so I don't want 1,000, I want 10,000, and then you're going to hover over that cell again, get the black cross, double click down, and now target's a little bit more manageable. Now there's 110 rows. Total amount is about the same as we had before, but a lot more reasonable. Yeah, this is a decent list. Okay, and so just scrolling through the vendors, we can see we got Deere and Company, John Deere. It's like, okay, that's John Deere's are tough to buy outside of their one place. That makes a lot of sense, right? I don't know what these others are. You can look at the descriptions. You got lawnmowers, batteries, bearings, sodium sulfosates. Again, I don't know what any of these things are. Like emergency lights. Why are we buying emergency lights from Gilbert, Arizona, right? I don't know, and that's not for me to decide. But in your analysis now, you can see, hey, just scroll through and see what we're buying, and you can see these different things. Now, I see one here for batteries. No reason why we shouldn't have batteries purchased inside Texas. So we're going to create one more. Column. Okay. Any questions up to this point? So what we've done so far, just to recap everything so far, if it's equal to Texas, return Texas. Otherwise, return other. If it's equal to Texas, return Texas. If it's equal to Georgia or Tennessee or NC, then Southeast. And then we switched to a nested formula with a bunch of OR statements. So we got Southeast, Southwest, West Coast, Mountain West, and Northeast. And now we have a target, right? If it's not in Texas and it's over $10,000, that's a target for finding another supplier for our Austin, Texas spend data. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to say target category. Okay, so this is target transaction, and then this is target category. Okay, so for this one, we're going to use the find formula, equals find, and I want to find anything that says battery in column B. Okay, so if it's a battery, and maybe that's just me, my institutional knowledge. If it's a battery, I want to find it. Okay, so equals if. And then the logical test is find, okay? So find, I want to find the text battery within this, okay? And then you're going to close parentheses. So let me actually just show you real quick what the find formula does. So we're going to find tape within this text here. And if you notice, it returns a 1 because 1 is where it finds the very first letter. So I'm gonna do all. I'm gonna do the word all. So then if I find all, then it returns a number, and it's the 31st character over. Now, the problem with this is then if I go down, I don't find the word all, it returns an error. It doesn't give me 0, it returns an error. So we're going to do a couple of things here. So the first thing we're going to do is equal if error. Last thing before I go on, if I do lowercase on this, this is case sensitive. So the find formula is case sensitive. And so because of that, I actually want to do all lowercase, and then I want to put the lower formula against my B2. Okay, so I'm just going to hover here for a second, make sure everyone's caught up. But we're going to find all lowercase, the text all in the lowercase of B2. Okay, so then I'm going to press enter. I still get that 31st value. That's great. So I'm going to change this to battery. Okay, and just so you see what it does, double click it down. Here we go. This is a battery, and it says it has the word battery in it. Okay, so that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to put if error. Love this formula because, especially with the find formula, you know it's going to give an error, and that's okay. But if it returns an error, I want it to return a 0 back. Okay, I don't want to see zeros. I don't want to see errors. I want it to be 0. Okay, so if I do a 0 now, right, and then click that, perfect. That's exactly what I want. Now, let me just change this to find battery. Okay, now we're gonna do target category here. Okay, so we're gonna create two separate formulas: if, error, and find, and lower, kind of collected into one. The target category equals if find battery is greater than 0, then target. Otherwise, not target. Right? So if it can't find the word target in there, then don't put the word target. Otherwise, it's target, right? So then last, we're going to say target both. And we're going to use that same AND formula that we use for target transaction. And we're going to say if and transaction equals target and category equals target, then target, otherwise not target. Feel like going shopping. Anybody else feel like going shopping at Target today? Do a pickup order. All right, so now we can look at just the targets here, and that's perfect. Now there's just two, that's fine. It's not a big deal. In fact, these look like duplicate lines, which is a conversation for another day. But here we go. We got two parts that we spent $11,000 on. We should not be purchasing, now it's a medical thing, so maybe there's a medical thing that we are not familiar with that we got to look into, but we shouldn't be purchasing from Massachusetts, Maine, I can't remember. We shouldn't be purchasing from anyone outside of Texas for batteries, because Texas, everything's bigger and better in Texas. So there you go. So that's the course. Any questions? We covered a lot. Let me just go through real quick all of the different formulas and explain them. So the first thing we did is a very basic if statement. If it's equal to tx, then return tx, otherwise give us other. The next one is a nested if statement. So if it's equal to tx, return tx, equal to GA, southeast, TN, southeast, North Carolina, southeast. We realized that there's a better way to do that, so we created an OR formula, if or, so this is combining if statements, nested if statements and ORs of all these different regions. Target transaction, we look to see if it was in Texas and not in Texas and greater than $10,000. We look to see if they were battery. And then we did battery, target, yes, no, and then target both. There you go. So, and formula there. Now, one of the things you can do on this formula is you can do this. You can also do a second if error. So you can do another if error, and you want to find, and let's say you want to do, we had blue jeans earlier. We just want to find gene within here. Value is 0. If it's an error, we want to return that. So now find category, okay? So now it's not only finding battery, it's also finding gene. And I forgot to put a lower on that. If you double click, so now that blue jeans company is now a target. So now you can continuously add values to your targets in your find categories, and now your list of targets will continue to increase. Now, lucky for us, blue jeans aren't expensive, and so it doesn't show up here. But again, the principle shows the continuous improvement and the nesting and all the different conditional logic you can put together. So super cool example. If statements are really powerful. Enjoy. Thanks, everyone. Bye.